You're listening to The Dan Nicholl Show.
On the Dan Nicholl Show this week, an episode entitled Dan Now Feels 185 Years Old, because my very special guest skipped in with a happy smile and told me he remembered as a very young child coming to watch the Dan Nicholl Show in studio. I'm off to get Botox as soon as this is done. Wiaan Mulder, it is a delight to have you here.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, it's as you mentioned, it's a massive privilege for me to be here, and like I said to you before we got the cameras rolling, I feel like I've made it to be on your show, so it's pretty cool.
You have. That's generally internationally with a queue of people. We've turned Virat Kohli down 4 times this week, so I hope you realise the consequence. Yeah, I didn't actually realise this. This reflects very badly on me, but as a teenage school kid, you were actually in the studio audience when the show was still on TV.
Yeah, I think, I can't exactly remember why I was there, but I know it was with South Africa under 19. I think we were invited. I was captain at the time, and I was invited to come and watch one of your shows, which was, it was pretty cool. And yeah, I remember, as I said, I remember sitting there and thinking, that's what it's take. I don't know, I'm going to get there.
Well, what it did take was almost getting a world record. Then I thought, all right, we can have him on now.
So I've had to make it, I guess.
Cool. Well, it is lovely to have you on, and
Thank
it's
you.
lovely. I got to watch a little bit of you guys. Lords, I was over for the first day of the test match, and what an occasion that was. And then glued to the television at Bulawayo Sports Club, where I very unsuccessfully opened the batting a few times, the Harare Sports Club. 2 different pitches. You made it look like the greatest batting track on earth. I made it look like a grassy whacker in the early 90s. So there was some great memories watching that, and just great watching over the last little while the evolution of Wiaan, because I think you alluded to it yourself in a number of interviews after the tour to Zimbabwe, that this guy who arrived, the famous photo of you in your school uniform in the change room, and there was this massive expectation. This is Jacques Kallis and Alan Donald and Sachin Tendulkar rolled into one. This is the kid who's going to rewrite all the record books. And it's not that things didn't happen, but that sense of expectation was enormous. And I think it's taken a little while for you to find your feet in a way that you're comfortable with.
Yeah, it's been an awesome journey, Dan, to be honest with you. A lot of downs, I'd say, a lot of really difficult days, and a lot of things I've had to work through. It's never been a thing of from under 19 going through. It's never been as much a skill thing as it was a mental thing. I think I showed that I had the skill in patches and in moments, but the mental side for me was always the biggest challenge, and that's where my biggest growth has been. And to be honest, it's from when I realized that is the big problem for me, dealing with being in the environment of the Proteas and how long it took me to get over being on tour with the Proteas and going into another environment and feeling like I'm free, and why don't I feel like that with the Proteas? And it was all, I was really young in a amazing like dream environment. I didn't know who I was, and here you are exposed to so many different people, and you have to figure out who's Wiaan, like where do you fit in? I've never been somebody, for example, who drinks a lot, or just because my parents don't drink. So you go into the environment, and when you win, you celebrate with a beer. Like, I don't drink, so it's like difficult. You don't know, like, do I have to start drinking just to fit in, or like, what is the? Not that alcohol is a problem. It's just how, I guess, sports people and people in general celebrate good days. And I had to learn very quickly, or for me, it took a little bit longer than I hoped it would, what it's going to take and what it's going to take for me to find a way to play a little bit better.
From the outside, I remember watching you as this precocious kid who clearly had all the talent in the world, but you're not the first person to have come on the show and spoken directly or indirectly about that imposter syndrome, about do I really belong here? And it's a very difficult one for people who haven't been in that space to get their head around, because from outside, well, hang on, this kid could score 40 and over if he wanted to. How can he possibly not believe in himself? But it is a very real thing to have to deal with.
Yeah, and I don't think there's many tools when you start to deal with it. And I think that was my biggest realization was, okay, I need to do something. And it all changed, to be honest with you, when I went to the MLC in America, and I spent some time with Shane Watson, and he had a very similar mental process to what I had. So he also thought a lot about the way he goes about it and the way he wants to go about it. And the difficult part was when Phil Hughes got hit during that time. It added unnecessary doubt, I'd say. I mean, he was a legend of the game, or he is a legend of the game. And for him to go through all the mental stuff made me think, like, if one of my heroes is going through it, there's no reason for me not to work on it. And when I started speaking to him about it, he opened me up to a whole new world, to be honest with you, a whole new world. And that's pretty much how I feel like I've grown over the last 18 months to 2 years.
And it almost felt like you probably needed that time.
Yeah.
And yes, there were the years where you've spoken about the down moments and the difficult times.
Yeah.
But it's in going through those that we build up so much more, and the reward finally does come through.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I spent a lot of time in England where I think you upskill. So like physically and understanding your technique and that type of stuff plays a big role. But if I didn't fail as much as I did, or as much as I'm still going to, those things don't really mean anything, if that makes sense. So to put the 300 that I scored together, there were so many things that had to work out, and the occasion is not always going to merge them by himself. So I can't just rely on that one or two performances a year or a season or in a competition where everything merges itself. You want to be able to perform more consistently by what you put between your ears. So that, without those phases, I would never have learned those lessons, basically. So it was very, very important.
You mentioned that 100. Inevitably, it will come up for the rest of your life in conversation. I'll give it some personal context. I used to sit in my bedroom in rural Zimbabwe with my little yellow and black transistor radio, listening to the BBC Sports Roundup, and they'd cut from regular programming because there was a monumental moment coming up as Brian Lara was in sight of the record of the great Sir Garfield Sobers.
Yeah.
And I still remember the commentary, Chris Lewis dropping one short, Lara with that wonderfully effortless pivot off the hip and getting it down to long leg and the boundary that took him past Sir Gary Sobers. And I remember sitting in my bedroom as a young teenager in Zimbabwe being so excited. And years later when I met Brian for the first time, being an absolute fool because I could not say a word to him. I was just way too excited. But then I also remember following Matthew Hayden, getting past that record. And then, of course, Brian came back with his 400. Yeah. And then I was sitting, having a meeting and paying no attention to the people because I was watching my phone. There we go. I can see, he's getting there. And off to lunch, cut the meeting short, told them my kid was sick at school or something equally untrue, and dashed home because I'm going to go and watch young Wiaan Mulder get his 400. Then I see Zimbabwe are batting. Yeah. And it came to it. And you've had some time to look back on a decision that the entire cricket world has had plenty to say about. Yeah. And that in itself is something to deal with. But as you look back, is there a little part of you that thinks, well, maybe I should have gone with it? Or is there an absolute, I'm comfortable with the decision?
Yeah, I'm at peace with it, to be honest, Dan. I think the important thing for me through all of the extra noise and the stuff that's happened was it was the right cricketing decision at the time. I think we had over 600 runs. In my head, I wanted to bowl a little bit before lunch. So if you go and watch the last bit of my innings, I was slogging a bit when I got like 320. I was slogging to just get as many as we can because I thought we had enough. And once you get to 600, Zim has to get 400 for them to not follow on. So that was my thinking. I didn't even think about the record or anything like that. And
really, did it not come into your head?
I thought I was still so far away, to be honest. The day before, I was on 264, and when I went to bed that night, I got bowled on 247, I think it was, by Tanaka Shivanga. And it was like that time of the day where you can't really... There's like different colours of... there's a shadow on the pitch, and it's bright on the other side, and I like lost the ball, and he bowled me. And I remember going to bed, and I'm thinking, yes, you've missed a straight one here. Like, you can easily do that tomorrow morning. So you need to be switched on. So the 400 wasn't even in my head. And when I got to like 320, all I was thinking about was finding a way to bowl at them before lunch, because it's a tricky little phase there. To get 2 wickets, it would be crucial. And then Shooks actually sent me a message when I was slogging, and he said to me, just think twice whether you want to get 400 or not. We're going to bat until lunch. So there was another 8 or maybe even 10 overs. So I could definitely have gotten there. So he kind of planted the seed of the whole Brian Lara thing. Is that the way you want to go about it now, before lunch and at lunch? And when I walked off on 367, I sat down. He came and sat next to me, and he said to me, what are you thinking? Because I'm obviously captain. So I'm like, no, I think we should need to declare. So he says, are you sure you don't want to go and get 399 and then declare and send a really strong message to the world about Brian Lara and the record? And I was just like, we've got enough. And legends are legends for a reason. I'm very far from a legend, and I think him having the record is the way it's supposed to be. A young Wiaan Mulder trying to find his feet in international cricket does not deserve that record right now. Maybe if I get the chance again, it could be different. But at that moment, that's what was my thinking. We need to go and bowl. 367 is enough. I don't have to make any other statement. Like that's the way I saw it. He said to me, that's perfect. That's the way you want to go about it. And that was the end of it.
For what it's worth, I think it was a great decision to have made, and your reasoning is this is not you trying to make something up here. This is clearly a very genuine feeling about it, and I think it's not if you get another chance. I am looking forward to that 401 not out against Australia before tea on day one when we declare it 800 for 1.
Against the Aussies, that would be unbelievable.
And yeah, whatever happens in their career going forward, it broke so many other records. It's South Africa's highest score by a captain. There's loads of legacy to it anyway. Yeah. But I think probably beyond all of that, I remember, because the internet's a great place to go to if you want really informed opinion. With social media, why is Wiaan Mulder batting at 3? Is this the right way to go? And I think probably more than anything, and not for all the people out there, because they don't really matter, but for yourself to know, hang on, I've gone out at number 3, and don't tell me this was just Zimbabwe. This is a very good young team, and to bat for the sheer amount of time that you did, most people would have fallen asleep bored by then, and you kept going. I think it probably said to yourself something so important.
Yeah, I think I've been an opening batter, number 3 batter at school level and SN 19 level and all those types of things. So it's not that it's never happened before. It's the fact that I never did it in first class cricket. I think over the last 8 years or 9 years of my professional career, there's been a lot of noise about my batting and how can I average closer to 45? And I mean, there's a lot of noise when it comes, just like you said, people that don't really matter when it comes to the cricketing world. But when I started taking abuse from people who have played the game and are legends, so like Alistair Cook said he doesn't think I'm a number 3 in the Lord's Test after my first innings. And to be honest, when I walked off there, I also didn't think I'm a number 3. So that's just, I guess that's part of the game. But I've learned a couple of lessons in my short time batting at 3 where it's extremely difficult to bat at 3 and bowl. So if you're going to do it, I'm going to have to find a way to bat time, be mentally as clear as I can when I'm batting, because I don't want to lose my bowling. I think that's what pushes my stocks up. But it's been different to be backed by Shooks. It's almost given me a bit of clarity that I'm going to do this. Like there's no ifs and buts. I'm going to do it. And if it doesn't work, I've given it a full crack. And I think that's been the biggest difference to any of the noise, is that someone has believed in me, and the balance of the team is at its best, and that is very important. It means we can play in many different conditions with enough bowling options as well as batting options, if I can make it work. So there's a lot of aspects to it, I guess, or factors to it, but it was a dream of mine to play for South Africa, and if it means I have to bat at 3 to play for South Africa, I'm going to bat at 3.
The last person to do the bat on the top order and bowl at relatively high speed was Jacques Kallis, probably the single most reluctant bowler in the history of cricket, and in
Now you know
fact,
why.
generally quite a reluctant cricketer, mostly because while he might have been out there in person, his mind was at Leopard Creek
Yeah, playing
or at
golf.
Sternberg, or because it's basically all he ever really wanted to do. Is there the joy of getting ball in hand? Is there still that comprehensive love of cricket across the board?
Yeah, I love the game. I love the game, and I think for a big part of my journey, I haven't loved the game.
Which is a hard thing to do, because in many ways, certainly to the outside world, cricket is what defines Wiaan Mulder. And if what defines you in the eyes of many, and to a degree yourself, I'm sure, if you're not in love with it, that's a tough space to be in.
Yeah, I think that concept of it defines who I am is also a really tricky place to be. And I think for a long time, especially because I started when I was young, you kind of see yourself as Wiaan the cricketer. You don't see Wiaan as Wiaan the husband, or Wiaan the father one day, or Wiaan the son to my father who is going through his own thing, and my mom is going through her stuff. So I think you lose a lot of perspective about life. And I mean, cricket is a game in the end. We all have to do something to make money, and that's just the route that I've kind of gone on. But that perspective of it's just a game, there's more to life, also gives you a chance to play with a bit more freedom. And I think that's been a big part of my growth, and hopefully something when I have kids one day I can pass on to them, that you should never take yourself too seriously. I think in this world where there's so much positive and negative, highs and lows, if you take yourself too seriously, I think you get carried away quickly. So I just want to have fun, enjoy the game. I mean, I love batting. I always have, and you still find me now and then go hit balls at the ends with Peter Stringer on the machine, just because I love it. And I think that's the important thing I had to kind of get back from my younger days, is just enjoy the game and whatever comes with it, highs and lows, abuse, no abuse, support, whatever you want to call it. I think that's important.
You talk about Wiaan beyond just the cricketer and the husband, the father to be, the son. The vast majority of people listening, they don't know that Wiaan. They only know the guy they see on TV,
Exactly.
decimating attacks. So who is the Wiaan they don't know? Who is the Wiaan away from the game?
Yeah, I love being with my family. I think my wife's family, my family, I'm pretty close with all of them, and those are the people I spend most of my time with. And when I'm at home or whenever I get a chance, I really spend time with them. I love golf. I always have. My wife often says I spend way too much time on the golf course, and it takes a long time. So she often thinks I'm trying to leave her to go play golf. But I love the golf course, and I got a little puppy that I spend a lot of time with. But that's like pretty much my life away from it. I don't like being in Joburg. I love being at the coast. I'm a bit of a beach bum when it comes to that. So that's eventually where I would like to end up, in like Ballito or Durban or somewhere there where I can wear slops and cruise around in my baggy jeans. So that's pretty much what I'm about away from cricket, yeah.
Which will be well deserved when it gets there, but there's a long time before you get there.
Yeah.
Has this last little stretch, World Test champions, scoring this monumental knock against Zimbabwe, has that recalibrated your view on what's to come?
Yeah, maybe. I think it's just opened my mind a bit more to what potentially I can achieve. I think I've always been my biggest critic. So when things are not going well, you can't see the sunshine again. But it's also opened my mind a little bit to what I should be doing after cricket. I mean, during cricket, I want to play with as much freedom, or during my career, I want to play as much freedom as I can and enjoy what I'm doing, and hopefully make a difference to the younger guys coming through because of the experience I've had, and try and find a way for them to, have another option other than cricket, like a little back door or back window, to even if it's just with finances or something, just to let cricket be the main thing. You enjoy cricket for what it is, but remember your life is something else. In terms of your career, I mean the main thing. So that's, for me, I just want to enjoy it, and whatever's possible, whatever the big man's got in store for me, I want to give it a full crack, but set up what I want to do after cricket as soon as I can. And I mean, I'd love to get into business, some property development. I've got a little idea for an app, and so my brain never stops when it comes to what I'm going to do next. But yeah, I would say it has changed a bit to just being able to see what maybe I can achieve.
You talk about what the big man has in store. I presume you mean Shukri by that. You got some really exciting cricket to come, but you've also got this journey to look back on that a select number of people, I think, can learn from, because one of the spaces I will engage from time to time is that sporting parent, that sporting family who've got sometimes a young prodigy, sometimes they just think they have a young prodigy. My son, age 9, will probably be playing for the Proteas by the time he's 12. You've got to have this sense of balance. I'm a sporting parent. I love going to watch my son play cricket, play football. Luckily, he's reasonably good at both, so I have had paternity tests. But he has a great deal of fun with it. And you've mentioned enjoyment 3 or 4 times already in this conversation. And it's sometimes I see that parent who lives through their kids and has already told me, no, my 7-year-old, this is their plan to play for the Springboks. And I really hate seeing that, because it's so engineered, and it takes away the absolute essence of what sport should be about, which is that sense of enjoyment. And you're 100%. Somebody who's had the opposite side of that. You've had that time when it hasn't been enjoyable. And so would it be a fair gospel to preach to the parents of talented young sports people that thing they must not forget above all else is that enjoyment is so crucial?
Yeah, I think there's a massive privilege as a young guy having that pressure. I think you learn a lot about yourself. I think you kind of forced to engage with older people, and especially once you break into the professional side of things. But I think as a kid, you have to be able to play with freedom. And to be honest, the first day of the first test, I got run out, and I walked into the change room against them, and I was like so depressed. I was like, I worked so hard to feel like I'm playing really well, and I feel like I'm in such a good place, and you get run out. And I remember sitting down, and one of the best things happened to me. I was watching Dewald Brevis and Andre Pretorius bat, and I remember sitting there next to David Bellingham and Matthew Bretsky, and we're all a little bit depressed because we all didn't get runs once again. And anyway, and we're watching these two, and it's like a sense of flow. Like they are playing with so much freedom, and all 3 of us said, we're changing the way we play. We're going to go out there and play like we're kids again. And those guys are 19 and 20 or whatever. Like, they're learning. They haven't been on the journey yet. They haven't hardly even ever failed. I think Brevi has failed a little bit, but they haven't gone through that process yet. And guys who have gone through the tough times, watching them and thinking, I wish I could play with more freedom and flow like they are. So as a kid, pressure from your parents suppresses that big time. And I think if you can just let them be and be free, teach them that you have to work hard, of course, that's very important. You have to work hard, look after yourself, but just have a sense of freedom when you go out there and really express the talent that you've got. Because in the end, that's what the only thing you can rely on is what you've got. And if you suppressing that and you feeling overwhelmed and all of these things, you got no chance.
So, I mean, I have my son in the nets at 4 o'clock every morning, and he gets beaten if he doesn't get 100. But that would come from his mother. No, he doesn't. He actually enjoys it too much. He keeps kicking me out of bed in the mornings to play cricket before school.
Which is what you want, right?
I love that. I love that. Especially when you become a parent, you'll discover the joy of screens with kids. Mind you, probably got that with Luandre and Dewald as well. You've got this really exciting era. And the first day at Lord's, for me, there was just such energy around the ground. I probably met 8,000 South Africans I hadn't seen in the last 5 years because suddenly everybody had a board meeting in London, even if their business had nothing to do with the UK. And there was a wonderfully South African feel. But that was in turn inspired by who you guys have become as a team over the last couple of years. And it's this wonderful combination of extraordinary talent led by people like yourself, but also just a sense that you guys are a team and there is something special about you guys together as a group.
Yeah, I think the leadership is a big part of it. And it's not just Temba. I think it's the whole crew. And you get to KG, you get to Aiden, get to Keshav. And all of those guys, the culture they're trying to breed is exactly that, playing with less fear of failure and, all the cliche things, but it's getting everybody on board and committing to something bigger than, I guess, individuals' ambitions or, selfish reasons for being there. I think that's the difference in this team. And there's so much special, like, I can't explain to you how it feels to be in that team. It's incredible, and to score 50, score 100, take a wicket, take a catch. It's really special being in that team, and I think that's what you want that culture to be. And not once in the lead up to the final, whether we were in Arundel or whatever, that we speak about losing or choking and all the old cliches that come with South African cricket. And I think that was the difference. We kind of believed there was something different. We believed we can make this happen. And I mean, the proof is in the pudding, I guess. We beat the best team in the world, arguably. They just got legendary players still playing and still performing week in, week out, as we saw against the West Indies now. So I think there's something special, and hopefully we can inspire the Luandres and the Breavi and to, play for the same reasons.
I'd like to just clarify one little thing there where you said you beat the best team in the world. When we're done, Google who are the current world test champions.
Second best team. Okay.
There we go. Sorry. Thank you. Take full credit, because believe me, if it was the other way around, they would be taking 100%. Plenty of it too. I think what gives me the greatest delight in this conversation is to see how happy and relaxed you're looking, and you've had your demons to fight through, and you got past that, and there will be failure to come, because that's the nature of sport and it's the nature of life. But you've got a sense of perspective, which is great to see, and that smile is very family fixed. It's a good time to be Wiaan Mulder.
Yeah, I guess you can call it a good time. But like you say, there's so many ups and downs. I just want to be there for my family, be there for my wife and my kids one day. And I think if they come along, I just want to be a good person. And I think that's pretty much all I want to achieve from the game, is try and kind of be a good person around the people around me, and hopefully make people smile and achieve some special things along the way.
Like there's a 9-year-old kid called Aidan who spent most of the last couple of weeks being Wiaan Mulder in the garden, which means Faf du Plessis has been set aside because he was the previous holder of that role model status.
Oh, that's so cool.
And yeah, when you were growing up, you had the same. You had the guys who you wanted to be when you were in the back garden,
definitely,
and ended up playing a lot with when you were still a kid. And I think to be able to inspire a new generation is such a wonderful gift, and you're doing it really well at the moment, so you've got many reasons to be proud.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I the night before I got 100 against Zim in the first test, I was watching videos of AB and Callis batting on YouTube. So I mean, that's just part of the journey, I guess, and you look up to people, and I think that's the whole point, to inspire the next generation, because my time is ticking, man, and before we know it, there'll be somebody else in my position, and just try and leave it in a better place than I found it, I guess.
All right. Well, before that does come along, you've got a couple of simple tasks. There's the 401 not out against Australia, which we have discussed, plus victories over them regularly. We'd like a couple of World Cups to go with the World Test Championship, so please sort those out. And then you've scored many great hundreds. You've also watched some great hundreds, either occasionally against you or from the other end, batting with somebody who's made a great 100. I'm going to give you the opportunity to see another great 100 and invite you to come play golf with me, where I shall pull off a magnificent 100, probably with about 20 to 25 balls, depending on how good my caddy is at finding them off the tee box.
That would be at the top for sure. I'd love to do that. Thank you.
Wiaan, absolute delight. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for a great last stretch, and thank you in advance, because I know that what has come is merely a sign of what is still to come, and there is much enjoyment, much excitement, much success still on the Wiaan Mulder diary, and I can't wait for it.
Thank you, Dan. And thanks so much for having me. It's been a dream, to be honest. So ticking them off.
There we go. He's finally made it on the Dan Nicholl Show. It's been a great last stretch for one of the really exciting talents for so many years, who's now taking that talent and turning into something that is terrifying cricket nations around the world. My guest on the Dan Nicholl Show this week, the first of many, I hope, Wiaan Mulder.